The pathway to moksha is arduous. It is beset with innumerable difficulties, hardships. The most competent person like Arjuna, even after he was fully instructed by no less the person like Lord Krishna, expresses grief towards the end of Bhagavad Gita, of his incapability for observing Bhakti Yoga. So at this stage, the benevolent Lord Krishna, out of compassion and friendly disposition towards Arjuna, comes out with the advice to adopt the method of absolute self surrender as an easier way to moksha. This is the doctrine of Saranagati, Prabhati, popularly known. This has been accepted by the Vaishnava Acharyas as an easier alternative means to moksha. And it continues the most important doctrine of Vaishnava theology. So, in Vaishnava Sampradaya, they follow Saranahati, but Saranahati, according to Vaishnava Sampradaya, is not a upaya, it's not a means. So, they don't do Dhanachara Sampradayam, they don't do Varanyasam because they say it is not a means, it is only for to serve God we are doing Saranagati. So, there is no, it is not a upaya. Purushartham is a supreme spiritual goal for all Vaishnavas. So, the concept of moksha is the sense of freedom of liberation of soul, the Atma, from the bondage. So, let's see what Vedas says. Finally, the gist of Veda is Bhagavad Gita. Rig Veda, he is pleading the Vedic deities to grant immortality. The Veda says, Rig Veda says, it says immortality. And then the Taittiriya Upanishad says, the knower of Brahman, the Jiva who knows Brahman attains the highest. Chandogya Upanishad says, he who reaches the Brahmaloka does not return to this world. Nacha punaravartate, nacha punaravartate. So what is the nature of the Jiva? What is the nature of our Jivatma? After suppose by remotest possibility something happens, we attain moksha. So what will be the nature? So the individual who has successfully completed the upasana on Brahman, Bhakti Yoga, Saranagati, the soul is believed to depart from this body through the crown of the head with the help of Paramatman and pass through the path of the gods, Archinardi. That margam it goes. And then, of course, the bondage of karma gets over. With the total eradication of karma by the observance of upasana like Saranagati, one important factor is after doing Saranagati, one has to live according to Saranagati Tattvam, the philosophy. That means I am only a session, I am a slave of God. That I drops. That is why we don't say that I have done Saranagati, because there also I comes. So Saranagati is not a ritual. And he who sees Brahman, finally, suppose if the Jivatma sees Brahman, he sees everything. Chandogya Upanishad says. It's like the metaphor or analogy can be given for this. If there is a gem and the gem is enveloped by a dirt, it does not show itself, but the same becomes manifest after the dirt is removed, it glows. So the lustre is not newly created. When the gem is cleaned, the Jiva's omniscience, the lustre, it's not a new one which is brought into existence. What was already there, inherent in Jiva, becomes manifest in its state of moksha when the karma gets over. So that something new is not coming out. So that is the state of Jiva, nature of Jivatma. So eternal freedom of Jiva from the bondage. Philosophically, the concept of moksha would be meaningless if the soul were to be caught again in this bondage. Correct? So there are two possibilities of return to of the soul to this world, to this bondage. An individual, out of ignorance, maybe of his own choice, desire to come back. Alternatively, God, who possesses the unchecked freedom, he has got a great power, and to whom Jiva is absolutely subordinate, Session, he may command the Jivatma to go back. Thus, the individual who has totally become free from karma, after realizing that other than the enjoyment of Supreme Being, nothing else is of any value, and he has become omniscient after attaining moksha. The most likely thing which can happen. So, Paramatman, who has abundant love and compassion for the Jivatma, and whom he considers his dearest, Atyartha Priya, will never think of sending him back. So once if this, so there is no possibility of this coming back. So what will be the status of Jivatma? What will be the status if, in case by chance, if we attain moksha? Equal status of Jivatma with Brahman. Jiva continues to retain its distinct spiritual entity even in the state of moksha. In other words, it rules out the view of the Advaitis say Jiva becomes one with Paramatma, it merges with Brahman. No, it will retain its spiritual entity. If the soul is an eternal, it's eternal, no? Atma. Spiritual entity as distinct from Brahman by virtue of the two possessing logically is untenable. So it will maintain its spiritual entity. It doesn't merge with Brahman. Samya Bhakti, that is equivalent to the Supreme. The concept of Samya or equality, it does not mean that according to Vasishtadvaita, equality in all respects. No. There's a fundamental distinction between Brahman and Jivatma. Brahman, that is the primary cause of the universe. No. Jagat Karana. We cannot become Jagat Karana. Brahman is that which is the cause of creation, sustenance, and dissolution. This unique characteristic of Brahman is not applicable to any other entity, either the individual, Jivatma, or any other this thing. So we will the muktas who attain moksha will retain a spiritual entity with exception of the cosmic function. The released soul, the Jivatma, enjoys equal status to Brahman. That is the state of. So, divine service, what is the Kaingarya? As Ramanuja says, no, that is, Chandogya Upanishad also mentions that the individual self becomes free in the state of moksha, that is incapable of moving in all worlds according to its wishes. It also refers to such physical activities such as eating, playing, moving from place to place. This is possible. This would therefore imply that Jivatma should be possessed a body. There has to be a sarira, no? A sarira will come, but the sarira is an option. Vasishtadvaita explains that Jiva can assume a body form of its own free will, sankalpa, not depending on anything else. In order to perform some divine service, kaingarya, or for the purpose of movement, it can have a sarira, but it is of optional, of its own sankalpa. Such a body taken by a jiva constituted of spiritual substance, that is Suddha Sattvam. It is not like this Panchadhatu, Suddha Tattvam body. So it can take or it cannot take. The assumption of a body of a Jivatma is a state of moksha is purely optional. But it does Kaingarya according to Ramanuja. Philosophically, moksha according to Vasishtadvaita Vedanta, a paripurna Brahma Anubhavam, a complete and comprehensive enjoyment of Brahman. Vaishnava theology has, however, conceived Dhanacharya Sampradaya Kaingarya, divine service, as an important spiritual goal.